What's going on, guys? It's K-Dub here with another episode of Crypto Zombie. So on tonight's episode, I had the opportunity to sit down and talk with Andre Cronje. Now, you may be familiar with him as the Chief Crypto Code Reviewer over at Crypto Briefing. He's also got 20 plus years with development experience. He is the advisor over at Fantom, very well respected member of the crypto community space. You are definitely going to want to stick around and watch the rest of this video. We go into Bitcoin versus gold, Bitcoin as a store of value. Can Ethereum actually be the world's supercomputer? Are DAGs actually better than blockchains? Do any of these tokens actually have utility? Are 99% of them going to be completely forgotten about in a year's time? We're going to go into Binance controversy, the IEO model. Is it sustainable? Is it unethical? And so much more. So if that sounds interesting, you guys, if you're ever gonna watch one interview, you do not want to miss this one. This guy has experience. He's been in the business. He knows what he's talking about. And I also want to give a shout out to our sponsors for this video, the Fantom Foundation, for putting this together. I genuinely appreciate the support. And without further ado, let's hop into the video. So, all right, I'm sitting here with Andre. He is the advisor over at Fantom. Welcome to the channel, man. Thank you for stopping by.
No, I appreciate it, my man. I have to admit, I've been wanting to ask you since I got onto this call, but I'm really curious how you're actually putting the background in while we're talking live on the channel, because normally that's post-editing.
Yeah, this is the Zoom. It does it automatically for you. It's a time saver. So.
That's amazing. I honestly didn't know that. I mean, it looks awesome. I thought you're somehow like green screening and then layering it in real time with some backdrop. And okay,
just saves time down the road, man. So thank you for that.
Well, that's good.
All right, so everybody out there, by the way, I had an opportunity to meet Andre for the first time in person at Consensus, which was really cool. We got to hang out, and I've been a fan of your sort of reviews that you've done for Crypto Briefing. In fact, when I tend to look into a project, especially when it's sort of, deep diving, I'm not a developer, I can't read code. So I actually used to go to that and check out and see what you had to say. So it's actually really awesome to have you on the channel. But today we're, obviously here to talk about Fantom. So I just figured for everyone out there who doesn't know who Fantom might be by now, just maybe you could just give us like a quick overview. I guess actually, how about this? So on your website, you have a motto that says that you're aiming to be the nervous system of smart cities. Why don't we just start there? What is that all about?
So, like that's actually just the business development vertical. I'm actually very annoyed by that statement because I feel it limits the scope. Now I understand why the business development and the Fantom innovation team needed to narrow scope, because they needed an area that they can focus on that fits well for the sector. But if you peel off those layers and even peeling off the blockchain and all of these things, and if you take it down to its core, what Fantom's good at is really fast decentralized consensus. That's its secret sauce. That's what makes it special. And I've actually been trying to push them into applying that as a solution for blockchains instead of as a vertical of other solutions that run on top of a blockchain. Because Fantom is much better positioned offering their ABFT as a service to other blockchains. I mean, Ethereum could plug into it and get the ABFT scalability as soon as it's live. Same for Neo. I mean, they've recently launched their PBFT one. I think is coming out next week, and I mean that they could instead have swapped out. You've got the whole Cosmos ecosystem that's built on Tendermint, which again is a strong PBFT, but that can switch to asynchronous BFT and get those extra speed and benefits from it. So it's actually much bigger than the smart city scope, but from a business development perspective, the guys have a lot of strong network effects. They have a lot of domain knowledge. They know the industry quite well. They've done a lot of work in the industry before, so it was a very easy vertical for them to get into, to present the tech, to leverage the tech, to use the scalability, to use the throughput, to use the storage mechanisms and all of those things. But speaking plainly, it actually really annoys me because I think when you go to the website now, you think it's smart cities, and then you go, okay, but I'm not a smart city, so I'm moving on.
Right.
And that's a bit of a concern from a pure, outside perspective.
Well, if we had to compare you, because recently, I mean, the big topic was basically IOTA's protocol upgrade. If you saw, they removed the coordinator.
Yeah.
So that's like the big
side.
news, the core side, right? So they say they'll finally solve, high fees and scaling and centralization. So I think if I had to compare, and I could be wrong, I could be totally wrong, but I do think in the sense of dealing with IoT, and you guys are a DAG, I think a lot of people would want to know how you would compare to IOTA. Are you guys sort of like competitors? Are you dealing with the same things? And, as far as the centralization, you guys say you're decentralized totally already. So how do you guys sort of compare the two?
So I mean, it's the net result of the two, I would say, is the same in his competitors. I mean, with both, you're going to end up with a high scalability network that increases as speed as participants increase in the network. So good checkboxes on both sides. IOTA's thing is it's the more transactions you have, the more you need to validate, because your transaction now needs to validate the two previous transactions to be able to authenticate. So the more actual transaction origination you get, the faster your network gets. So the reason I'm focusing on that specifically is because that's really fantastic for IoT. It's not good for something like financial value. The reason it's good for something like IoT, because in an IoT world, you're talking about millions of billions and trillions of devices that are just sitting there. You're talking about a thermostat that just every second publishing temperature. You're talking about a humidity meter that's just recording levels. And these things just need to transmit this event the whole time, nonstop. And this is good for a system that's based on transactional volume. So it's going to get faster and faster the more transactions you add to it. Something like the Fantom network is a compute-based model. So it's going to get faster and faster the more computational power you put towards it. So the difference now there becomes something like IOTA, strong on transaction side, not necessarily strong on computation side. Something like Fantom, strong on computation side, and it can do the transactional side. So the offset there is it allows, and that's why IOTA is a transaction-based system and Fantom is a smart contract-based system, because it focused on how can that throughput and scalability add value to the computation that you also get out of the network. Because the more CPU, memory, hardware you throw at it, the faster it gets, and that can be used by smart contracts, by other verticals built on top of it, by other blockchains, etc., etc. So again, very, very same approach, very same sort of net result if you look at it purely at a high level view. But that's like how does a Ducati motorcycle compare with a Tesla sports car? I mean, both high-speed vehicles, both high-level, look the same, solving the same problem, but two very different markets that you end up approaching.
Right, that's a good point that you make. So specifically, let's say like right out of the gate, I mean, not even like 5-10 years, like right now, what are the best what do you think like are the applications that Fantom is best suited for immediately right now?
So to me, it's still largely focused on the computing side. Okay. So I see other blockchains as an immediate adopter of the product vertical. If you want to look more traditional, because that's a little bit still in next gen scope, traditional, you start talking about standard ML classifications. You have things like image classifications. You have outsourced computing. You have gene splicing. There's the protein folding is another good example. So there's a lot of high computing systems that need non-centralized throughput solutions. That is a nice vertical for it. What I like to tell people now, because you did say right out of the gate, so this is like who can use it tomorrow, and I tend to say no one can use it tomorrow. And the reason I'm very pessimistic on having people immediately use it is because what it's built for doesn't exist yet. And this is actually where we start getting into a little bit of a theoretical problem, because where humans don't need blockchains. Blockchain wasn't designed for humans. Humans have no purpose for it. But if we start looking at a machine-to-machine world, so two examples I always like is you have an autonomous car that needs to go park in a parking lot. So you have a boom gate machine standing there that it needs money, and you have an autonomous car that needs to go park. but that car can't have a bank account. It doesn't have an ID, so it can't go open something at Deutsche Bank or whatever. But it needs to be able to pay for this parking. So in this case, you have machine-to-machine financing. Another example is something like a delivery drone that needs to go through private airspace. Again, it needs to be able to communicate and pay at that point in time. So when you take it a few years further and you start looking at the autonomous self-functioning world where financial value has to interact, all of a sudden something like blockchain becomes incredibly important, and it adds a lot of value. Like right now we're in a very weird phase where blockchain originally was designed as a hobby. It wasn't designed for a problem. There wasn't this is an immediate problem, this is what we need to fix, this is why we're building it, which is where most of our tech came from. It was hey, this is a nice theoretical exercise. Let's test it and see if it works as a hobby. And it's gotten to the point where we've realized here's something. It's real, it's doing something, but we don't know what the hell it's doing. And now we're sort of trying to force problems on top of it instead of just having it naturally fix a problem. So we're looking for areas to shove blockchain into as hard as we can. And that's why we keep running into the same areas, because we keep seeing supply chain, we keep seeing IoT, we keep seeing remittance, cross-border clearance. We see all the same stuff because we're just hoping that we can shove it into one of these problems. But the problem that it fixes doesn't exist yet. And there's a bit of a really annoying gap in between those. And you can see it if you talk to crypto people in their frustration, because I love it because often people come to me and they'll ask me what's my top 5 coins. And firstly, I tell them I don't hold coins, so I don't really care. But if we're going to have this conversation, you as a crypto holder, tell me which coins you've used for their intended purpose that you've bought or held, or where you've actually bought a coin to use it for its intended purpose. And then I'll tell you which coins are actually good ones, because all of you are sprouting about adoption and next gen and about the masses are going to come in. But we as the first line, the early adopters, we aren't even using it for its intended purposes. But we're bitching and moaning that other people should be. I mean, there's a cyclic hypocrisy here. And
I mean, I would argue that the currencies, I mean, let's be real, maybe 95% of it is just trading and stuff like that. But I mean, you have seen it used as actual currencies. I have seen people using Bitcoin and Ethereum and even, the stuff in like Venezuela and stuff like that. Those people were legitimately taking it as a form of value to counterbalance their basically failing fiat currencies. So I would say that some of the top currency ones might have some sort of a use case. But I could see where you're saying with the other, 2,500 plus altcoins. I mean,
I agree with your argument, but only for Bitcoin, because Bitcoin has reached, even though it's volatile, it has reached a certain level of stability that starts making it feasible to be a value of currency. Because I'm willing to accept Bitcoin from you, because that 30-minute volatility, for me to be happy that the transfer is successful, is not that volatile, thanks to the fact that there is enough volume liquidity and healthy enough order books. So something like Bitcoin, I do think, is actually close to its intended purpose, which was a store of value, and now specifically to be able to actually be used as a transfer of value. Anything other than that, we're gonna have a hard fight to convince me otherwise.
It's actually pretty funny lately on the channel. A lot of people have been commenting, and it's like as the days pass, I slowly keep shifting more and more and more into Bitcoin. My portfolio gets more and more Bitcoin over time, and you start to realize, like you said, you got to stop assigning value. Either it has it or it doesn't. Are you using it? It's like that saying of, the brick that gets thrown through the window and then it's got a note on it and it says, call this number for window repair. It's like you're basically creating problems and then you're creating solutions, and it's like, what? So that's
what's happening.
That's commendable that you could even say that.
Because we're going to say exactly what's happening here. I'm not going to give you a fluff show about adoption and world peace and how it's going to make the world a better place, because it's not. It's tech. It's gonna make a lot of people not have jobs anymore. And technological changes like this is actually very, very bad for the world as a whole, because every time we have a technology shift like this, unemployment rates go up, skill level goes down. There's so much bad things that happen every single time a technological shift like this happens. One last statement I wanted to make on the last comment. So one thing, having worked with crypto companies now and like people in crypto, you often see what they're willing to accept as payment. So you'll say, hey, are you willing to accept crypto as payment? And how many people tell you that they want I don't want to mention any coins because I'm not trying to be mean, but let's take some random top 20 coins. How many people tell you, yeah, please pay me in NEO, or please pay me in Tron, or please pay me in VJ? But how many of them say, hey, yeah, please pay me in Bitcoin?
Yeah, exactly. Like and the thing is like, even with the tokens, that what is the value, right? You know what I mean? Like, you just come up with a number, they come out on the exchanges, and then what? I mean, look at all these IEOs, literally. Every single one is just like it's just boom. That's it.
But on the IEOs as well, right? Like what I don't get is I think it was Wolf of Wall Street. Wolf of Wall Street had the scene where Matthew McConaughey was telling Leonardo DiCaprio that you just want to keep the wheel churning. So you just want to take the people's money, put it in something so that it looks like they're making money, and on paper they are, but they're the ones walking away with the hard cash commission. They're not the ones that have the fake on paper money, because that's what we do in crypto often. And how we measure market cap is the perfect bloody example of this, because we take a current trading price times circulating supply, market cap, full stop. Meanwhile, you try and sell that amount of tokens at that price. Good luck, buddy. If you can manage to sell half of it without completely wiping out the order book, I commend you. It's probably going to be closer to 10% that you can actually get through that bloody order book.
Just talked about this on the channel, man. I can't believe how you're talking about this. We just see, like, the whole market cap is an illusion. There's no,
it's a complete joke.
Yeah, that's true.
That's and now what IEOs do. And this is masterful, because what they've essentially done is they've perfected this to the point where they only release 2%, 3%, maybe 5% of the circulating supply. But now normally if you do that, you're not going to be able to do much, because you're not going to be able to create a market, because you're not going to have liquidity, you're not going to be able to make any kind of healthy order books. So what do? They go to the private sales side and they say, look, we're going to raise 1 mil, 2 mil, 3 mil, 5 mil, whatever it is, but enough money so that we can use that to then create the market for this tiny IEO percentage that we're actually putting on the market. Because now you have actual volume of, let's say, $10,000, $20,000, and you've got $1 million to push that in whatever direction you want, up, down, it doesn't matter. So now all of a sudden you can very easily give that thing 10% green candles for the next month without sweating at all, because the sell pressure can't come into the ecosystem. So on paper, everyone's happy. Everyone's so excited about their IOs and their profits and their gains, and it's fixed their whole portfolio. Meanwhile, by the time they get to 100% release schedule in those tokens, and they try any kind of liquidation strategy, they're going to be so far below their original numbers that it's not even funny. But that's why we're trying to pack as many IEOs in a short time period as possible, because we don't want people to realize that 6 months from now it was all the same joke as ICOs. We just packaged it a little bit prettier, and we learned our mistakes from ICOs, and now we're just perfecting it on this side.
The only thing that I could even say that's better is that it's like, you now know that at least you're not going to have a exit scam right from day one. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, at least they're getting vetted by some of these bigger exchanges, whereas the ICOs that you had in 2017, 2018, I mean, people were just sending ETH to literally any address,
yeah.
So I mean, in one sense I could see that. And I know that that's not exactly, decentralization, but you may argue that at least it's safer if we had to pick one thing.
Look, I mean, I always love this whole decentralization thing, and when people start talking about decentralization, because they're like, no, it's centralized or decentralized, one or the other. Yes, you choose or you die. There's no in between, and that's just not going to be true ever, because human nature isn't decentralized. I mean, even Bitcoin in its beauty and its elegance, and it's as close to bloody decentralized as you can get. But as long as there's any kind of financial incentive, there's going to be collusion, there's going to be centralization, there's going to be minds that share most of the power, because human nature does not like decentralization. We like centralization. In fact, we take it a step further. We like me, and that's what it should be about. We don't even like little cluster centralization. And it's definitely not about the other guy, because we never care about the bloody other guy unless I can take some advantage from him, and then we actually do care about it. So centralization exists, and it has existed for a very long time because it allows checks and balances. Centralization is the thing that protects the I want to say idiots, but I'm going to say uninformed.
Assuming that everyone has the ability to actually self-govern themselves is being very kind, in my opinion.
That's insane, man. Let me just walk into a hospital and figure what medication I'm going to give myself. I would have been dead 100 times over. I mean, how do we, and now we want to do it with people's financial wealth and freedom. I mean, how many people do you think you can let into a casino now and they won't lose all of their money? But for some reason, we think it's good that people should be in charge of their own financial freedom. I mean, sure, there's a subset of people that definitely can be, but those are people that understand the markets and know how to manage and blah, blah. I can tell you I'm not one of those people. I mean, a lot of people think that the whole no crypto thing is altruistic and stuff. It's just because I know I would have lost all of my money by now, because I would have just been buying into whatever I'm reading on 4chan or Reddit, and I would have just been getting minus 99 after minus 99. And I'd be one of those guys, no. Good TA, good fundamentals, definitely going to go up, guys. Let's just hold out a little bit longer. Their next update is coming next week. Then you guys will see. We all know how that goes. I mean,
meanwhile, you're just watching the Bitcoin comparative go lower and lower and lower, and you're like, damn, I should have just bought Bitcoin, but I'm only going to make a 2% gain. Well, that's how it, yeah, right? And then you come back 6 months later like, damn, hindsight. So I feel like we have not talked about Fantom that much, which is interesting, but I have to say this is a really awesome conversation that we're having. Did you want to go over some of the updates? I mean, I figure while I got you here,
So I mean, look, I figured we could do the progress update 101, new research paper that came out, new updates. Testnet's great, FakeNet is great, mainnet is close to release. We have the new online paper, blah blah blah. That information is there. It's published weekly. If you're at all interested in the project, it's on the mediums, it's on the Twitters, it's on the websites, it's updated weekly. I actually get annoyed by how much development time is spent telling the world about the development instead of the bloody development. Now, to be fair, it's like 5% for every 95%, but that's still more than I like. It should be 100% development at the end. So I honestly think, let's talk about this industry. I mean, how often do you have the project side? I mean, because I've seen the exchange negotiations. I've seen the market maker interactions. I've seen the original investors and their, let's call it, liquidation strategies, which is just bloody well dumping on people. So I mean, that's the stuff that people often don't get any insight to. So I mean, if we're going to talk about something, let's talk about the ugly shit in this industry so that people can get a perspective on what's happening on the other end of the fence.
Well, yeah, I mean, you obviously have more insight into that than I do. I'm just the YouTuber guy. You've dealt with it. You've talked to the teams. You've advised and stuff like that. I mean, what have you seen that's really happening right now? What do you think of the whole space in general? I mean, granted, has it cleaned itself up a little bit, or has it just sort of twisted it into a different way? Like, what's really going on?
No, it's more twisted than ever, my man. Like last year, Consensus was a perfect example for me, because last year at Consensus, I remember talking to people, and then they were all about, adoption, mass users. They've got this product and they'll have this many users and blah, blah, blah. I almost thought that was a bottle of vodka.
No. It's definitely water.
It's a little bit too early.
That's my secret sauce. That's where I get it at the end of the film. So,
And this year I'm talking to people, and it's all about market making, and it's all about liquidity, and it's all about release schedules. So on the one hand, I'm glad, because I was very annoyed last year, because I'm talking to these projects, and they're talking about how they're going to dominate the world, and I'm like, you have no idea what you're talking about. Like you don't understand your market, you don't understand your demographic, and anytime you see a prospectus and someone tells you they're going to have a 100 million users, they have no clue about their demographic or who they're actually targeting, and it means they're doing a shotgun approach. But anyway, so as much as I didn't like it, it had a sense of hope. Like this year, talking to people, and it's only about the market, and it's only about market making, and it's only about liquidity. People have realized the product is a lie, adoption is a lie, all of those things is kind of garbage, and the token is the new product. The token is the thing everyone is selling. The token is the thing that people are trying to market and maintain, and do whatever the hell they can to try and get something out of it. And I'm happy, because it means people are wisening up, and they're realizing what this is, and they're not like bullshitting anymore. But at the same time, I'm really sad, because that little bit of hope, that little bit of light that was sort of clinging in the space is almost all but gone. And that's a little bit sad to me. So I'm glad we're clearer, and I'm glad the people in the space are having the same conversations now, and we're not lying as much as we did last year to each other. But at the same time, it does feel like everyone's hopes and dreams have a little bit dwindled, to the point where now we accept it's about what we can do in the short term. And I honestly don't know how many of the people I talk to today I'm still going to talk to in 12 months from now. Not because I won't be in this industry. I'm going to finish until I have all of the bolts I have available for that future tech I spoke about. But most of the other people I interact with, like marketers, consultants, advisors, businessmen, all of these people, I honestly don't know if I'll still see them here.
Mm. I mean, I'll probably be here. I sat here every day and made videos during the bull market, so there must be something wrong with me, man. I must just love pain, because I stayed here the whole time. So I mean, listen,
but even looking at your content, it was a lot more altcoin, and it's just more and more and more Bitcoin.
Because it makes sense after a while. You know what I'm saying? Like the altcoins, what did they do? I mean, even altcoins right now that are actually out there doing things, have products, you can use them. They're still down like 90%, 85%,
Yeah.
So the thing is in this particular industry, the actual price of these tokens has zero correlation to the use case or what the thing does. The only thing that I've noticed that does is Bitcoin. You know what I'm saying? And Bitcoin is basically becoming a store of value. I mean, you're not seeing Microsoft Excel at I don't even want to pick a project, but you know what I'm trying to say. Let's just use Neo, because you use Neo, and I'm a fan of Neo, so I can actually say this. You're not seeing a Neo keyboard thing get added. So
they've got the new update coming in a week from now, the new CLI2, which we can speak highly of. They've got the new BFT algorithm coming out, which is also a very good step in the right direction. So we're speaking positively. In fact, we're shilling it. Maybe we should go talk to Neo Global and see if they'll sponsor a few videos.
Not allowed to talk about it. Dude, it's crazy, but I definitely appreciate the conversations today. I mean, wow, where do we even go from here? So
so on the topic of Bitcoin, right? And this is one that I think will annoy a lot of people, but of all of the projects I've spoken to, of all of the teams I've worked with, of all of the exchanges I've interacted with, BNB is a smart bloody system. Like I know there's a lot of hate and things about Binance. Like I myself had a lot of reservations. I've been open about their chain having a little bit more centralization than I like, but I mean it's still a bloody good solution if you consider the ecosystem and stuff. I actually complimented them on everything they built around it, because it's smooth as hell, and it just works, and that's what you expect from a product.
Honestly, you were talking about horrible use cases, utility for tokens. I mean, even though they might arguably just be inventing new use cases as they go, the BNB token has utility. It's being used. You have to hold on to it for the lottery. Then you have to use BNB only to get into the IEOs. It's just they have a whole system, and it just, I mean, you've seen the price. Like, how can you deny that's what's been happening? So
So, because I remember I had this talk actually with a team about mid last year, and they were having the discussion about this was when ETH and BTC were doing its massive plummet. And one of the recommendations was, hedge half of it into BNB because it was one of the most stable performers that they've seen the entire year. And I mean, it's just continued that process. But now it's not just the fact that you need it on the DEX, and to list on the DEX you need BNB. And as a general rule, if any other projects are watching this, you do need about 3,111 BNB to actually list on the desks and stuff. So buy that stuff now. Don't be dumb and wait another 3 months. If you have any plans, get it out of the way. And yes, I'm shilling BNB now.
Well, why do you think I'll let you finish, but when you're done, why do you think Binance has been so successful? Because we've seen guys come out and just say, they're the devil, this and that. I mean, how could something become that successful? I mean, you could say it's power, but really no one put a gun to anyone's head and said, use Binance, buy the token. No one did that. It happened naturally. So why?
I honestly cannot tell you why people started actively trading on it as much as they did. Like why Binance is a successful platform.
Well, I could tell you why I initially traded on it, hands down. It had nothing, it wasn't the interface, it wasn't anything like that. It was because Binance at the time when they were so new, they were listing any of the altcoins that were having difficulty getting on the other exchanges. So when now it's not like that. Like now you have to go to IDEX to go get those low cap gems. But when Binance first came out, they were listing things like Walton Chain, and you could only get that on Binance, and they were hot at the time. So people were signing up to Binance just to be able to trade those tokens they couldn't find anywhere else. I mean, that was what drew me to it, but then it just evolved into something totally different.
And I don't quite understand how it went from what it was to what it is on the trading side. But again, I don't understand the trading part well enough. So I'm definitely not someone to talk there. But subsequently, what they've done with BNB and their ecosystem. And I mean, let's face it, BNB is centralized. It's 100% centralized. Now it's actually a little bit more decentralized now that's on Binance DEX. But I mean, ignoring Binance DEX, it was 100% centralized before this. I mean, it was run in you can argue Omni, blah, 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 but it's not. It was in a database. It was a balance. It was on a single website, the end. So again, that's the centralization, decentralized argument, which we don't really have to go into now. But I think, and obviously the IEO stuff was also really, really smart in terms of you need to hold it to get the lottery chance, and then it automatically deducts, and then you get the other tokens. Because again, that speaks towards, like you said, why you originally went onto it, because that's the only place that you would get these tokens and be able to do anything with these tokens. But the thing that I think they really nailed, and I'm not even sure if I'm allowed to disclose this, but it's nothing to do with any of the projects I'm involved in. So just to be clear, so no one thinks there's anything happening with a Binance relationship. But if you're listed there, like your liquidity that you hold to sort of protect their users from like, just wiping out the entire supply or something, and then their users get hurt for someone doing an exit scam, that you hold and lock in BNB. So the projects that are listing there have millions of dollars locked away in BNB that's now, as long as it's trading there, it's off of the market. And that's going to keep happening as more and more projects come in, and as more and more money comes into the market. That's just going to compound. So you've got this like legit supply and demand thing happening that you don't see with anything else. Not even Bitcoin, in all honesty.
You know what's weird? You were talking about a consensus, and I noticed, like you said, last year it was all altcoins. Just I'm gonna get this allocation. I'm gonna invest in this. I'm gonna get that. This year it was Bitcoin, but the other coin once in a while that did get brought up was actually BNB. So it is interesting, and it was really weird. It was like either Bitcoin or BNB, and I didn't really hear a lot of talk about Ethereum, which usually you do.
No. But remember I think highly of Ethereum. I think highly of the foundation. I love the Enterprise Alliance. It's good tech. But the only reason people bought Ethereum was to invest in ICOs. So when's the last time you invested in an ICO on Ethereum?
I don't know. I want to forget about it. Let's put it that way. So,
but that's probably the last time you had a necessity to buy Ethereum. So with ICOs out of Ethereum, which was their use case, that's the thing they did. there's no more reason to purchase, because again, price goes up when there's reason to purchase, and the reason to purchase outweighs whatever other people are selling, or the actual.
Well, that wasn't its original use case though. Like Ethereum, it wasn't originally supposed to just be a fundraising token. It kind of morphed into that, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's supposed to be a world computer, but I mean, as designed right now, it's kind of a really shitty, really expensive world computer. They're fixing it. So again, this is not fun. They're actively, very, very successfully busy addressing all of these issues. But right now, it's a really expensive, really slow, very shitty.
What are your thoughts on like the second layer solutions? I mean, versus just building whatever layer you want to call it, layer 0 even versus layer 2. I don't know. There's all these different buzzwords. But I mean, in your opinion, do you think second layer solutions make sense for Ethereum? Since even though, because you can compare it to something like, okay, TCP/IP, right? That's not very good. But aren't we having a conversation right now? We've been able to build on top of it, right? Look what we're doing right now on this crappy base layer. So what's your thoughts? Do you think eventually Ethereum will it'll get to a point where it just won't be able to, even with these second layer solutions? Or do you think we have to actually build a better, initial layer, base layer?
Yeah, I mean, so from an engineering point of view, when you build something, and it's 6 months down the line, a year down the line, and you realize the original thing you built is no longer doing what you expect it to do. And then you start patching stuff on top of it. And you're hoping these things that you patch on top is sort of going to make a difference and it's going to fix the problem. And the more you do that, the more clunky this thing gets. You think it's going to keep improving it, but it's actually just subtracting from it the whole time. And eventually you get to this point where you now have this monolithic spaghetti monster, and you realize, look, the problem all this time was that original little bit of architecture wasn't right, and I should actually just go back and fix that. And all of these extra things I'm trying to do on top is actually garbage, and it's not actually adding value. It fixes the immediate problem, and it looks like it does, but in the long term, it's adding more technical debt than it's adding improvement. So all of these layer 2 things, no. I mean, the whole idea, even Lightning Network. I mean, this concept of I need to lock in my Bitcoin into this channel so that we can use it, and now there's a max trade amount and a minimum trade amount, and now we need to find a middle intermediary to link it. Now, sure, those are sort of stuff we can fix with UI, although they're sort of not, because being a custodian means I have to lock it into the channel, and just needing to do that to go buy a coffee at Starbucks is already so bloody dumb that I'm just going to take out my credit card and use it.
Well, okay, I see what you're saying, but let me just point out something too. And I do like that we're having this conversation about Bitcoin, because I do, so many people compare how I'm going to send you some Bitcoin. It's going to take 10 minutes. That's not realistic. I can't do that. But also, you have to sort of look at Bitcoin as the base layer, I mean, I know we're off the gold standard in the US, but just bear with me on this example. If we still were on the gold standard, I'll just say, because we were in the 70s, right? So you'd have gold, right? But then you would need something to represent the gold. I'm not taking gold and shaving it off on the counter. You're not taking it home at night and melting it back in a pot and putting it, no. So I have something to represent the gold, or notes or whatever. At the time, dollars were backed by gold. We got off that, but let's just say we're still on it. So you have that, then you have the dollars, then you have a representation of the dollar. What is that? Well, those are the digits on your screen, right? Those are your banking apps. Then you can have a credit card, which can utilize those digits on the screen. Now that's centralized, but it's basically a glorified bar tab IOU system. Now we take those credit cards and we integrate those into things like PayPal and Venmo and all these other things. But really, if we go all the way down to the bottom, it's just gold sitting in a vault somewhere. So I don't understand why that logic for Bitcoin can't apply. How come Bitcoin can't have, why can't we have Bitcoin? And then, yes, the Lightning Network. Now, the Lightning Network may be, a piece of crap or whatever, but I would treat the Lightning Network the same way that I would treat a wallet. I mean, how much money are you going to carry around with you? Or how much money are you going to give? Like me, I don't really feel comfortable leaving my money even in and I know banks are FDIC, whatever, but I'm weird like that, I know you are not, but I'm weird like that. I like to own my own stuff. So for me, arguing that Bitcoin is slower than Visa is stupid, because Visa is already a solution on top of a top of a layer on top of a layer on top of a layer. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
And I mean, Visa clearing actually happens 24 hours, 48 hours, sometimes much longer. I mean, you settle with the bank sort of immediately because they've got a float to carry it, but the actual money movement is something that happens on remittance and clearance, and that's much later. So I agree 100% with you. But attaching, so the problem is using your analogy. You've got gold at the bottom, and the gold process is slow because you have to smelt the ore, and then you have to create the bar, and then you have to ship the bar, and the thing is heavy, so you need special infrastructure to ship it. That's the decentralized solution. That's the layer one. That's the Bitcoin solution. Now, what we're trying to do with things like layer two solutions is basically saying, okay, but we're going to take this layer one solution and kind of replicate it and put it on top, and then somehow hope that this is going to make the whole thing faster, which it sort of doesn't. Like what you could do, exactly in your example, is now you take someone that does traditional centralized architecture, basically a bank, and they now say, look, all of our assets is now Bitcoin. So now you get the same transference layer at the top, where it's the speed, it's the interactivity, it's part of Visa, blah, blah, blah. But they're essentially offering that as a float because they're hedging that against all of the Bitcoin they have here at the bottom. But that's how you fix that solution. The problem is everyone is sticking to this. It has to be 100% decentralized, and that's where the whole fight comes in, because decentralized and speed, like they'll never really be super connected. I mean, we're gonna get damn close. You know, I mean, you've got layer, let's call them zero protocols, stuff like Bloxroot, which will actually help speed transference. You've got new consensus protocols, Fantom obviously being a perfect example, that will speed up transference. So within the next 6 months to 12 months, we're going to get to something that as a layer one solution is sub-second latency with potential to scale, you know, to its requirement, which at this point is like 30,000 transactions a second if you look at the real world examples. And then we're already past the issues. So for me, bringing it back to your original question, like we're close enough to transforming this layer one solution into what it needs to be to handle the scalability, so that we don't need to be patching all of this garbage on top now. And I mean, once we get there, you don't even have to worry about a lot of the layers you have on top here, because it's executing at this layer. So it comes back to that original statement I made, where if you just fix the original architecture that was the problem, you're going to get to a much better solution than if you keep trying to sort of hack.
Yeah, it's like patching together like an old car. You know, you get an engine from over here, a piece from over here, something from over there, versus just driving a brand new one right off the lot. I mean, you know, everything's gonna work. You know, so.
I mean, technology changes fast enough that's true. I mean, right now, if you look at something like Threshold ECDSA, I mean, right now we're using it for secure multi-factor wallets. For viewers that don't know Threshold ECDSA, it's basically sort of like multi-sig, but it's where a single wallet is actually controlled by multiple keys, and any 2 out of 3 can sign it. So think of it exactly as multi-sig.
Okay.
The difference is ECDSA is something you could put in a decentralized solution. So that's Fusion. They're working on their DCRM technology, which is exactly this, which again is tech I'm very excited about, because it allows a blockchain to now be the custodian of assets in another blockchain. So now all of a sudden, with Fusion DCRM and Fantom consensus, you have a high scalability blockchain that can own Bitcoin. So all of a sudden, this blockchain, not as a layer 2 solution or anything like that, as a custodian of assets, which is exactly like the bank owning the gold, which it's backing, can then have its high-speed transactions and its transference, and all of it still in a decentralized world. So I mean, on a technological level, we're close to solving the problems on the layer 1. So why we're trying to hack all of these extra solutions on top now is it's hacky solutions that will be replaced within the next 6 months.
So it's just a temporary fix to just sort of, you know, mull time over until we really get those base layers the way that we really want them to, which I assume you've been involved in this. I mean, are you seeing progress? Like, obviously, you know, I know we're here for Fantom specifically, but I mean, are you seeing it with your own eyes? Like, do you think that this is a reality? Like, we're doing it?
let's already look at the shift from proof of work to proof of stake. I mean, you're already talking about a big jump there. Now you start talking about PBFT and you start talking about ABFT. Again, we see a big jump. Now, those two technologies aren't that mature yet. I mean, Cosmos's Tendermint is the most mature of the BFT families, but soon you're going to have the asynchronous guys coming out as well. You know, you're going to have the Hashgraphs, you're going to have the Fantoms, you're going to have Algorand is technically cryptographic sortition pods, so they're not really ABFT, but they're going to be faster than most of the other chains as well. So then we're going to have the fast consensus side, which fixes the one problem. The next problem we have is, I'm just checking, I have a little bit of lag, so I'm just making sure it's fine. The next thing we're going to solve is the network latency, and we have projects like Blockroot that have a method of transferring the data a lot faster by compacting the transactions in the blocks and then using that through their CDNs. Again, it's a little bit of a centralized solution, but you know it's going to make block propagation significantly faster. So if blocks are faster, it means blocks can be bigger. If blocks can be bigger, we can add more transactions per second. Add in bigger blocks with BFT, with POS, with some networking layer, and you have a really, really bloody solid solution that schematically and technically can get to our required amount of TPS without much of a problem. But now, again, it depends on what you're building this blockchain for. Because we're always comparing with Visa, right? Visa is sort of the benchmark that blockchains are compared against. And that is great if your blockchain is there to buy a coffee. If your blockchain is there to do image classification for NASA, all of a sudden that's not going to be enough. If your blockchain is there to support the next Facebook, it's not going to be enough, because you know what? They need billions of transactions a second.
Yeah,
Google,
people don't realize every time you like something, that's a transaction. Like every time you know, I mean, there's literally just so many transactions on these websites.
That is a lot more than 30,000 transactions. So now, again, you're talking about another solution that needs to come into play. But that's why the thing that I always argue with people is we always try and look at the full picture. You know, blockchain is this little box and it fixes all of these problems, and you just put the box down and you're done. And that's kind of garbage, and it's never going to happen. But if you start taking pieces from it, so you take the fact that we've done massive advancements in BFT and distributed consensus. One example I love to use for people is you know, as we're getting closer to autonomous vehicles. So let's take this 50, 100 years into the future where it's just autonomous vehicles on the road. Now, all of a sudden, you don't need robots and stop signs anymore, because that is something that we use as a primitive method for humans to be able to communicate to each other so that we can make a decision about who can go, who can't go. If you have autonomous vehicles that in real time can communicate with each other, then they can make those decisions at a high speed. But to be able to do that, you need a few things. The cars that are all close to each other need to be able to communicate at high speed. This is P2P. This is a normal distributed network. They need to be able to trust the information that is being shared. So they need consensus. This is standard BFT. This is standard Byzantine general fault problem. So our advancements in ABFT is the same thing that allows these autonomous cars to, at high speed, to be able to communicate with each other, know that some of them might be malicious, because it makes sense that there can be a malicious party amongst them. There's all financial gain when it comes to vehicles and stuff like this. They can exclude that malicious entity, make the correct decision, and all of a sudden you have an intersection moving at 100 miles an hour, and I'm using miles because I'm assuming a lot of your audience is American, but
yes,
you know, the real world uses kilometers.
100 miles is very fast, by the way, but
I'm just saying.
yeah.
It's 100 kilometers. I actually don't know the mile conversion.
I don't know either. I don't know either, man. Well, you know, our system of measurement makes no sense over here. You know, you got inches, feet,
Zero.
yards, nothing ever. You can't. Nothing's compatible. It's just.
but so now ABFT that came from blockchain is a beautiful solution for this problem. But you don't need the whole blockchain. I don't need to keep this data. I don't need to save it for the next immutable infinite years. I just need this one component. If we just look at something like the cryptography we're using, ECDSA and everything we're doing with that, that's fantastic for security and should be adopted as a general standard in any case. So there's so many technological subsets of what we're building that will be the tech of the future, even though it might not be this one package that we all think it's going to be. I mean, right now we're in this race of one ring to rule them all. But it's going to be a bunch of different technologies used in a bunch of different ways. And of course, now I'm talking about the tech people. I'm not talking about any of the tokens. They're all garbage. Sell all of them. Only keep Bitcoin.
I don't even mind that you said that, actually. Like, that doesn't even bother. But I mean, wow, that's crazy. I'm starting to feel the same way, my friend. But yikes.
Look, so if and this is a little bit of a different tangent, but honestly, a sincere message. If you buy the token because you're intended to use it, that is awesome. I commend you, and I think that is fantastic. If you buy the token because you think someone else is going to buy it to use it, and that's going to make its price go up, and then you're one day going to sell it, you're part of the problem. You're not part of the solution. I mean, I often talk about it in terms of the token trilemma, and I'm going on another different tangent now, but I'm just going to keep flying with it. In this blockchain ecosystem, the crypto that lives in the middle, that's the thing that's the value transfer. So even looking at Bitcoin again, at Bitcoin you've got the user, and the user wants to send a Bitcoin, and they're willing to pay some Bitcoin for the security, knowing that it will send successfully, it won't be stolen midway, and that they know that they owned it and that the person they're sending to is going to own it. So they're paying for security. The miner is providing hashing power, and they're running at an expense here because they had a capex expense to buy the hardware, they've got an opex expense to keep it running. So they want to cover their running costs. So they want to make X amount of profit to make sure that they run, not at a loss. And the consumer wants to pay as little as possible to obviously get the most value out of their system. Now, a token is supposed to live between these two bands, which is, the absolute minimum and the absolute maximum. And normally it'll chill around there. And we see in stuff like Bitcoin and Ethereum, it does actually sort of chill in there with a little bit stronger margin than error, but that's fine. But then you add the investor. And the investor just wants to take as many of these tokens out of the ecosystem so that other people hopefully have to pay more for it. But the thing that happens, let's say I take all of the cheap tokens out of the ecosystem and the consumer has to pay up here now. Guess what? The consumer is just not going to use it. So you end up actually destroying the ecosystem by taking those tokens and assuming consumers are going to take it, and then you can sell it to them at a premium.
Well, that was a problem NIO was having with the gas fees when the gas price got so high at the all-time high.
Yeah.
People were like, this is ridiculously expensive to execute a contract. Like, this is insane,
Because more investors were holding those tokens for its speculative value than the actual usage of the system. So I mean, I guess I'm saying investors is a large part of the problem, and I mean that's probably not the best thing to say because they're also some of the most active supporters I've seen. But
you need speculation. I think speculation. I mean, you could argue that a lot of these things are going to go to 99% loss, zero even. But I still think speculation in any market is a driver. Even back in the .com boom, I mean, they were building stuff, but that speculation is what brought the attention to give people those ideas to create the things that we have now, to develop the things that we have now.
No, and look, I am infinitely grateful for it because I remember about 2 years ago, I was having the conversation a lot that all of the attention, all of the money is allowing so many researchers that would otherwise have never gotten funding, because their ideas were just too far out there, to all of a sudden have raised massive amounts and be able to put full teams behind it. Like we've done more advances in distributed computing in the last year thanks to this industry than we did in 20 years before that. Even though what most of these projects do is they're just stealing work from like the 1980s and like Leslie Lamport's work has been reused so much to raise so much money for so many projects. It's not even funny, but that's not the point. So very grateful about that and what it did for the technology. But I just wish more investors were consumers. That's actually the point I'm trying to make. Because if the investor was also the person that actually wanted to use the token for its intended purpose, and right now they were just getting it at a discounted value, you know what? That's awesome. If they're just there holding it out of the ecosystem, trying to make it as expensive as possible for the consumer so they get the most value out of it, then you're actually being a little bit of a douche.
Wow. Dude, this has been pretty eye-opening. Thank you so much, Andre. We've been talking for like an hour. I don't know. I mean, we could talk all day here. Uh, I
I'm chill, my man.
I don't even know. I don't even know what we're doing. I thought we were talking about Fantom, but I guess we just talked about everything else in the ecosystem. And I have to say, this was really awesome and refreshing. Thank you. This is really great. I really appreciate the insights. So, is there anything you want to like leave, say to the viewers before we go, or?
I mean, look, guys, the reason we can have this conversation is because, I mean, Fantom's doing great. Like, it's the tech is good.
We talked for an hour and didn't even have to talk about Fantom. It's just doing fine. So
that's kind of the whole thing. It's doing well. It's doing its thing. It's got its launches. It's grinding away. Like normally, I honestly think most projects try and use interviews like this to sort of like reinforce to people that we're still here, we're still working. Basically, we did an exit scam. But you know what? Well, I mean, just go look at the weekly updates. They did an exit scam, so let's talk about the other stuff that's going on here. I mean, most people don't want to watch an hour just talking about Fantom and how wonderful the tech is and how amazing the innovation and the business development and blah blah blah. You know what? That stuff's there. It's going to keep being there. It's going to keep doing its thing. Let's tell them the stuff they don't know. Let's talk about the things that people don't want to discuss in this industry. Because I think for as much as we like to scream and shout about FUD and blah blah blah, we very seldom talk or address the real shitty things. Like, everyone's afraid of having real conversations. If nothing else, have a bit more real conversations. Think a little bit more about why you're holding that token, and not just because when moon and you think it's going to 10x. Maybe try and understand that token and its ecosystem a little bit more than just it's going to increase in value. Like if you don't at least think you will use it one day, then what the hell are you doing with that? And I mean, if nothing else, just think about that and see where that leaves you.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. Honestly, and I just want to let you know, anytime you want to come on the channel just to chat, like, seriously, like, you're more than welcome to. I mean, it would be actually great to even have you on a live stream and let you actually talk, because I mean, people would love to get some of these insights. And I mean, like I said, I'm just a guy. I mean, I know that there's stuff happening, but I only really see it from my end. Maybe I talk to someone, I hear something through the grapevine, but I know that you've been in the space so much longer. So it was really awesome to just see that sort of, like you said, the side that maybe the retail doesn't see. And you should be aware, minimally, at least, that these things are happening, so that you can make better decisions yourself. Because let's be real, even if people watch this interview all the way to the end, you think that's still going to prevent them from putting some money in a token that they think is going to 5x? No. Because humans are greedy. Like, you have 5 of something. Well, I want 10. Well, I have 10. Well, now I want 20 of it, right? You're never satisfied with what you have. That's human nature. People go to casinos, it's rigged, the house wins, and you still put everything on black anyway. Why do you do that? Why do people play scratch offs? You already know before you scratch that thing off, it's whether you're a winner or that's predetermined, but I'm still going to give you my $5. You know what I mean?
Chance and speculation, my man. It's look, it has fueled more innovation in our engineering lifetime. This is .com and blockchain included, than we would have otherwise been able to do. So as we mentioned earlier, very grateful for it. But I think it's time that we often like to talk about smart money. Smart money is going to come into the space. So instead of hoping and dreaming that smart money comes into the space, how about we, as the people that have money in the space, become the smart money, and start thinking a little bit more about what we do with it. And because the other thing, when you invest, you're giving a vote. So you need to understand what you're voting for. And one last separate statement: when you buy tokens off of an exchange from someone else, I hate to break it to you guys, you're not investing. You're not busy investing into the project. You're just buying some other guy's tokens. If you want to actually support the projects, you should be investing in the projects. So if you're serious about it, go talk to the project, see which methods there are that you might be able to contribute to them. But going to go buy someone else's bag off of an exchange, that's not you helping anyone, even if you want to support someone.
Even if you're the biggest bag holder in the world, it's not really helping. Maybe you're stabilizing the price a little bit, but that might be it. So,
that's about it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, dude. I really appreciate it. Guys, if you, I don't even know, how do we even check you out? Like, how can somebody just follow you on Twitter? Or I feel like we should talk about you, Andre, because, you know, you have contributed a lot of positivity and honesty to the space, you know, like I said, with your code reviews. So I do appreciate it, man. How can we get a hold of you?
Yeah, I mean, I try to kind of hide away and make sure people don't know me.
Okay, he doesn't want to get a hold of, just forget it. Don't try to get a hold of Andre.
The problem there is my name and surname is so bloody distinct that like you can't not find it. So, you know, I mean, if they're serious, just use the name and surname. But the best place to contact me is always Telegram, because then I can actually interact. Like I'm not very good at Twitter or YouTube or any other stuff. So
yeah, I'm not a fan of Twitter myself. Every time I go on there, I apparently get sucked into some drama, so I'm just gonna stay on my I'm gonna stay on my like, seriously, like, it's just like, it's ridiculous, this stuff. I'm just gonna stay on YouTube. I like it here. I like talking to you guys. So all right, Andre, thank you so much. We've been going on for such a long time. I can't even imagine. If anyone out there stayed until the end, you freaking rock. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Definitely you know, don't get a hold of Andre. He's very busy. He wants to hide. Check out Fantom if you guys haven't yet. Only buy the token if you believe in it, or you guys watch the video. So thank you so much, Andre. Definitely appreciate it. For everyone out there, my name is K-Dub. This is Crypto Zombie. Until next time, stay crypto, and peace out.